Hello and welcome back to Faffing with Friends. We're back from our summer hiatus. We hope you enjoyed your summer. Thank you so much for being patient with us and for continuing to support us throughout. We want to welcome you guys back to a new season of Faffing with Friends. We've got some spicy new episodes lined up for you and we hope you enjoyed them. We also want to let you guys know that we have set up a Patreon account. It is in its early days at the moment, but we would greatly appreciate if you would kindly consider supporting us there. It is the first step in making this humble podcast sustainable and upscaling its quality. We will have such perks as joining our Discord server or having a say in what topics we discuss in future episodes, as well as much more. So please head on over to our Patreon profile to find out more. You will find a link down below in the description of this episode. Instead of mentioning this at the end, I want to kindly ask our SoundCloud listeners to please follow us so that you never miss a new episode. Thank you so much. Without any further ado, I shall hand over to Ivaylo.
Right. Inglourious Basterds. Now, if you guys follow us and you follow our feeds, this has been an episode requested by one of our very good listeners and a very good friend of mine. His name is Encho. Today's a very special day for Encho. He's actually graduated university with a bachelor in engineering. So this is our gift to you and your shout out. So yeah, guys.
Well done, Encho! And enjoy the episode.
Woo! We're doing Inglourious fucking Basterds, the film by Quentin Tarantino. I don't know which number. I don't really care which number. It's Quentin Tarantino. Hit me.
Do you want me to hit you with the baseball bat, or do you want me to hit you with some film discussion?
The bear Jew.
I choose the bear Jew.
Oh, okay. I mean, hey, if that's how you want to go out, you know. But yeah, no, I think the first thing, and we've mentioned the film before when talking about our favorite films, the first thing you bring up with Inglourious Basterds is the 20-minute masterpiece opening scene that could be a short film in of itself. Mm-hmm. And it's Christoph Waltz, you know, being the best actor in all of Tarantino's films ever, like usual, but he's doing it so long and hogging the limelight like so well that it's just incredible. I mean, he's great in everything he's cast in, right? But playing Hans Landa, like the way he plays, we've gone over it before, it's like the ultimate evil character that's also, he has nothing to him that makes him special or extra or like scary in the sense of, oh, he could do incredible things. It's just, he is pure evil, right? Like,
yep.
The horrible, like, perfect version of what an SS officer would want to be, which is evil, pure evil.
Mm-hmm. Joe?
Well, see, the thing is, with the opening scene, I must have seen this in 2010, so I saw it about a year after it actually came out. And obviously, I didn't know what to expect. I heard great stuff about the movie, but I sort of, for the first bit, he sits down, he has a glass of milk, he starts talking, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what sort of movie am I watching? And then we cut to what he does, the great crime of Hans Landa in that scene, and you view it through the trauma of Shoshana. And it's probably one of the most harrowing things that you see in an opening movie probably in the last 2 decades, right? That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty accurate.
Christoph Waltz, as Lawrence said. A very well-cast actor. Didn't know him before then. I think most people didn't know him before then. He really made a name for himself. He really played that role really well. And it puts you in that environment. You're it's so immersive. You immediately sense the urgency and the danger that the Jewish family is in, as well as the French family. So to have an opening scene like that not only just grabs your attention, but obviously you sense the trauma of Shoshana, as well as the real violence of that time, right? So we talked about, beforehand rather, we talked about how this is one of the most violent periods in history, directed by one of the most famous directors for violent movies. He was made for this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But ironically, the scene, up until what happens at the end of the scene, is one of the most calm and even gentle scenes where he's just telling this man about his work, about who he is, you know, about what he does, right? As unpleasant as it is, right? And this poor Frenchman has no choice but to sit and listen and comply because he's trying to protect not only his own family, but the family who he's harboring. But unfortunately, he fails.
Yeah, I mean, the demeanor is calm, but as the viewer, this is the most, you know, bomb under the table, literally, more or less. It's, you know, you can cut the tension with a knife in that scene. And you know, I was going to mention this. Do you know what really adds to how perfectly cast Christoph Waltz is for the role? You know, he is Austria-German, right?
Like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, like, not only did they cast someone who, comes from the place where someone like Hans Landa would, it's why when you hear him speak German in the film the few times you do, it's really spot on. He has the dialect down, he has the accent, When he speaks German, you're like, yeah, that's a German right
100%,
there.
and it's part of his entire repertoire as an actor because he also speaks a plethora of languages himself as a person. And in that film, you actually see that showcased brilliantly. In the opening scene, he speaks French for like the first 20 minutes and then switches to English, and then he actually switches back to French so that the Jewish family can't understand what he's talking about, which again, it's just the brilliance of Tarantino, man. Like, we talk about these giant opening scenes, but they're part of like what make Tarantino,
Yeah.
He is a master of dialogue. He's the man who you just sit down and you just listen to these people talk, and they talk absolutely wonderful, like hands down.
And what he does perfectly with Hans Landa is that he makes you absolutely despise him within those first opening scenes. Like, there is no way in your mind that he could have a redemptive arc, right?
Nope.
So not only do you despise him, but you want something to happen to him. You want some sort of revenge for what he's just done. And you do get that eventually in the movie, right? So it's very well set up, in my opinion. You kind of don't see it coming. I didn't see it coming 10 years ago. I'm not sure if you guys did. Maybe you did. And every time I've watched it with someone who's never seen the movie, like, for example, I watched it with my brother recently, he did not see coming the cinema scene, the red wedding scene. And it's just so perfectly set up, I think. What do you guys think?
I mean, I did to some degree expect that, something to that extent would go down. I didn't expect how many of the central characters would die in it, if that makes sense.
100%.
Like, I absolutely knew some had to, because there's no way, there would be no real, like, stakes otherwise.
That's right.
But the way it goes down, it's like such a fucking insane cock up at the end. Like, everything goes to shit instantly, just out of like thin air.
That's the thing about Tarantino films. You never know if your main characters are gonna make it beyond a single scene, which is what happens with our good friend Michael Fassbender, who plays the British side of the war. And one of the better scenes in the film, I mean, it's a great film, but like that scene particularly always stands out for me when they go into this basement and Aldo Rain, Brad Pitt's character, just gives him absolute hell for having this meeting in a basement. And that scene is as tense as the opening scene, because you have the German officials there and they're playing this weird game, and Michael Fassbender's there and he's undercover, and there's an undercover spy, and everything can go wrong at any minute.
Yep.
And it eventually does. And it does so in a brilliant and smart way. Obviously, we all know what I'm talking about. It's when Michael Fassbender's character orders 3 whiskeys, and he does
and he uses the wrong fingers,
holding the wrong fingers, and the German officer is immediately, fuck you, you're not German. And then then Tarantino's classic comes in and they point guns at their dicks and then shoot their dick offs, and they just die, and it's just, yeah. Tarantino.
One of my favorite lines of that scene is when he switches to English, Michael Fassbender, and he says, "There's a special rung in hell for people who waste good whiskey."
Yeah, good scotch.
Just
downs it, and it's just like, wow, there we go. And the German's like, I've pointed this gun at your nuts since the start of the sitting down, like, wow, okay.
But that's a great game as well, right? So Tarantino is hinting at you with these little things, with these little, clues. They're playing a game where they have to guess who the other person is, and that's what the German dude does.
Right, on the spot, on the fucking spot. I actually didn't think about that till now. Well done, Joe. I'm dumb as fuck.
You. Got an English degree? Better use it.
Oh my god. But
as you can all tell, Ivaylo is slowly dying as we do the podcast.
I apologize.
Every time we do an episode, it saps some of his life energy, so one day you're just going to hear a skeleton murmur into the mic.
I'm probably, in all honesty, going to cut that out for the dignity of the podcast.
No, please don't. Please don't. It's staying in. But also, as you can see, my sinusitis has degraded into a cough, so it's fine. We're moving on.
Yeah, don't worry. It's not COVID, says Ivaylo as he dies.
God forbid. Right.
But anyways, back to the film.
We didn't talk about how Aldo Rain, right? That's his name, right? He introduces the bastards. Mm-hmm. That's the whole movie, right? So
you get
the bastards.
The bastards. Go.
Where he lines up everybody and says, "I want 100 scalps of the Nazis when we go over there." And eventually when they do go over there, they meet this dude, one of my favorite characters in the prison, and they like his work, they say, because he's a very efficient killer. But they break him out, obviously, and they start on this killing spree. And then we get to the Bear Jew, one of the most harrowing, violent scenes. But it's played out in a way where you feel somewhat compelled to cheer on the Bear Jew at the same time as you're disgusted with what he's about to do. But then you remind yourself, he just killed a Nazi captain. He didn't just kill some normal person.
Yeah.
Right? Did you guys feel conflicted about it or not?
Oh, not at all. Like, I've played video games since I was a child, dude. Wolfenstein taught me that Nazi murder, see Nazi, kill Nazi, and then Call of Duty kept that going for like fucking a decade.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I was like old enough then I saw this fucking film, I was already like, yeah, I've killed more Nazis in like media than most people.
Lawrence would be loved by Aldo Rain. I mean,
I was gonna mention something, and this is one of my favorite roles Brad Pitt has ever had.
One of his best,
and it's 100% to do with his fucking accent.
Yes.
Every time he talks, I cannot help but smile.
Arrivederci.
That accent is so
the
ridiculous.
iconic Arrivederci. We have to talk about that scene because that scene.
He's so, like, oh my god,
it's so ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous scene when you look at it because it's after the infamous bar scene. It's the climax of the movie. The bastards are reduced to like 3 members and the spy Bridget von Hammerschmark, and they're all together. And she snugged them into the Nazi premiere, and obviously Hans Lander's there, being Hans Lander, and they're pretending to be Italian. Now, keep in mind, before this scene, Aldo has said he speaks Italian the best. The second member of the Bastards, the second best, and the third member of the Bastards, third best. So in comes Hans Lander, and he's talking to Bridget von Hammerschmark, and he just absolutely bursts laughing at her because she knows she's a spy at this point, and she knows that these people are obviously there with a mission to sabotage everything. And then, as she introduces them, they all do they all say what they say, and they all do the hand gestures, and then Lander just puts them on the spot by just speaking the most fluent Italian anyone's ever heard.
Oh yeah.
Which again,
and I mean, people meme the Arrivederci, but I find the Bonjour.
The Bonjour. You know, it's just the
Buongiorno. Like, what the fuck?
And then he literally like speaks the most fluent poetic Latin ever. And then Brad Pitt just looks him up and down and just goes, Grazie. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And then he actually just mocks them. He says, can I hear your name? Like, I want to hear the music. I want to hear the Italian in you. And he's just like,
Golami.
Golami. It's just the most ridiculous thing. And Dominic the Coco, and then the other guy who's like Antonio Margaretti. Fun story about Antonio Margaretti. In Tarantino's latest film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of the films directed by Rick Doughton is directed by Antonio Margaretti.
That's
right. Easter eggs in Tarantino films. But yeah, man, Brad Pitt he's not as good as Hans Lander, but the film will not be the same without him.
I mean, Brad Pitt isn't, I argue, as good an actor, so it's like hard to be like fucking Christoph Waltz is like top 10 actors probably working, right? Like,
Yep.
So comparing anyone to like him is already sort of unfair unless it's fucking Daniel Day-Lewis, where it's like, yeah, this is an even match. I can see this playing out.
Absolutely. And he did go on to win a second Oscar with Tarantino in Django Unchained, which I'm sure we'll do an episode eventually on. But
like so I mentioned Wolfenstein, right? The reboot, the first game of the reboot, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it has a scene where you are pretending to be a Nazi. And you do like the same joke, which is clearly, I think, inspired by that scene, which is you're pretending you're German, but you are like the most American motherfucking character ever, like BJ Blazkowicz, right? Your fucking German is atrocious. The only reason you managed to get through is because he looks like such an ubermensch because of his fucking, like, you know how BJ's like literally a square. Like his head is a square in the like old games, even in like the old Doom games, your like character's face as you take damage, this fucking angry square looking at you like, ah! So yeah, no, literally the only reason he manages to like pass undercover for as long as he does is because they look at him and they're like, oh, he's got to be an Aryan, look at him. But like his fucking German is atrocious. It's like exactly the same, like Americanized, him trying to barely say the words. And the entire time playing that, all I could think about was this is such a fucking Inglourious Basterds reference.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely an homage.
But yeah, I think, okay, so we've covered the memes and we've covered the performances, but I want to talk about some of the deeper and metaphysical meanings of the film. Like, it's a very well made film with a lot of messages, but obviously, haha, let's kill Nazis, haha, Nazi bad. But I feel like Tarantino's whole message about violence and about just violence as entertainment absolutely needs to be addressed. I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like the irony of watching a film like this, or any Tarantino film, or any modern action flick, is just... It's incredibly similar to what happens in the film. All the Nazis are just sitting in a premiere, laughing at the German killing people. And then when shit goes down, and Shoshana burns the cinema down, and the evil laughing face of revenge is on the screen, and the bastards open fire, their bombs go off, Hitler gets riddled with bullets. It's a fucking trip. That final scene is a fucking trip. Yeah. And we're sitting here laughing because it's so ridiculously made. I haven't sat and watched this film with anyone and they haven't laughed at the final scene. And then only you realize how Tarantino is mocking you that way. Because he's showing you the exact same thing that his characters in the film were dying. And what eventually happened to them? They all died. Now, I'm not saying we're going to die because we laugh.
Here's the thing. I absolutely love violence.
But yeah,
it doesn't mean anything to me.
It's great entertainment.
Like, I'm not ashamed or like, oh no, I find violence. No, I super find violence entertaining. I know that. Yeah. I don't give a fuck.
Most of
Give me more. More violence. There's a reason we used to love the Colosseum. Bring that back.
I mean, we kind of do with Tarantino films. That's what happens. You laugh because it's so ridiculous. Yeah, Kill Bill, something else. Again, the final scene.
fucking Django's final scene, yeah.
The final scene of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yep. Again,
I mean, in Django, the guns would not have had the impact you see. Like, they may as well be shooting cannons at each other in that scene with the way that fucking people just explode, right? Yeah. Like...
See, the thing is, I think you both touched upon it. It's very meta in the sense that they're watching a movie about the movie that they're in, and we're watching a movie, and at the same time, all Nazi movies, all their propaganda movies had violence in it. They needed to, because how else would they convince their soldiers, right, to fight? Because they were saying this is what you have to do for the fatherland, or whatever crap they were feeding them, and they ate it up. But I would say it's different with us, because we're not eating up as though we need to go and do the same thing out there, right? Nobody's going to go out and start Nazi hunting because of this movie that they just watched. But I think what it is it's cathartic. It's cathartic in the same way that you play Wolfenstein, or one of my favorite games is Sniper Elite 2, where you literally get to shoot...
God, the X-ray bullets.
You literally get to shoot Hitler in the nuts, as well as everywhere else on his body.
In the nut.
And it's very enjoyable.
I mean, in the nut.
In the nut, exactly. And it's very cathartic and enjoyable to kill these Nazis and to eventually get to kill Hitler. Even though, obviously in the game, it's make-believe just as the movie.
That game understands that you revel in violence so well that it gives you the option to increase how often the kill cam in X-Ray happens. So you can make it so that it happens every single kill, and you kill like thousands of enemies in the game. So you can, if you want, just turn it into, I want to see bullet enter X-ray
But
mode.
it's such a fucked up concept. Come on, people. You can't lie and say it's not. It's such a fucked up concept we find violence entertaining. Like, it's just fucked up.
We do.
Here's what I wanted to propose, right? Which is, I don't think Lawrence is wrong, right? A lot of people enjoy violence as entertainment. We live in a world where violence is a very common thing, sadly. We sometimes see it on the news, but most of the time when it happens, we don't know about it, but it still happens. Some people who commit it may enjoy it, some may not, I don't know. We're not making a moral argument for the moment, I don't think. But what I do know is that violence sells. Just as sex sells, violence sells. That doesn't mean it's a good thing, but it is the reality, sadly. The media has bought into it, and it has become a way of storytelling that we have gotten used to. None of us are violent, or have done much violence, I hope, and I don't think we're any more prone to it because we have watched Tarantino movies, or any movies that contain such exaggerated violence. I do think, however, that you're right, though, that Tarantino is mocking us, the viewer, for laughing at and or enjoying such hyperbolic and gratuitous violence. We've talked about, media before, such as WWE, which is literally violence for entertainment's sake, or Game of Thrones, where there's a lot of violence and people get enjoyment from that violence. When you see, I don't know, a very evil character get their just desserts, such as Joffrey or Ramsay's deaths, or even Littlefinger's, there's something in that which you get satisfaction from and you enjoy. Perhaps enjoy is not the right word, but you're okay with it, you accept it, which I think makes us hypocrites, even if at the same time it may be described as a historically human thing to revel in such violent entertainment.
Yeah, but that's a different kind of violence. Like, if a mean character dies, I'm not, like, entertained by it. I'm satisfied by it. But with the way Tarantino does violence, it's just, as Lawrence said, the fucking hand cannons in Django Unchained. That's purposeful popcorn violence. You said they're literally recreating the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, just pointing at the screen with your beer in your hand, just laughing your tits off. It's a different kind of violence, and I can't explain it. I genuinely can't. It's entertaining as fuck, but it's also plays on some very fucked up part of the human brain.
Oh, for sure.
That finds that.
I don't know, dude. Again, I've never had like the moral conundrum people seem to have. Like, I enjoy violence. I haven't done much in my life that is violent, and yet you give me the most violent game imaginable, and man, I'm going to go out of my way to make it as violent. Like, if I play Doom, I'm doing every glory kill. I want to see every single way that anything I fight can die. Because it's so fun! It's just like, how does one live with it?
Okay, Lawrence, you read Berserk, man. We get it. Move on.
You play the Fallout games, right? The Fallout games have a perk called Bloody Mess. Now, you only level up a certain amount of times in Fallout, right? And you can only take a certain number, based on like how many levels you have, of useful perks, like every level or every 2, depending on the game. And yet, most people who play Fallout will get the Bloody Mess perk, which has 0 gameplay benefits, but it makes it so that any kill has the chance to just explode your enemy into giblets.
Sexy.
So you are giving up potential actual gains in what you are getting in that game through your perks, just so you can have the I want to see more gore and violence perk.
I mean,
that's amazing. That's such a, like, yes, of course that happens. Of course the majority of players get that fucking perk, because humans are violent pieces of shit.
I mean, it's true. But
Let me come to Ivaylo's defense now and play the devil's advocate here, if you please.
I'm the devil. You'd have to be my advocate to be the devil's advocate.
In this case, I'm kind of the anti-devil's advocate, I guess. Okay, so I think what Ivaylo might be getting to is the corrupting nature of violence, in that perhaps violence in itself is inherently evil, no matter how it's portrayed, right? So therefore, it can have a corrupting effect on the audience, on the viewer, whether they're adults or children or whatever, right? No different to, for example, pornography, right? But then we have different views on that. But the whole point is that violence, especially wanton violence, has recently in mass media become a very common thing. And because it's uncontrolled in any way, I mean, the studios don't mind it because it sells, so then it becomes...
I mean, depends which studio, Marvel's probably going to unmake Deadpool into, like, a PG-13.
Probably.
Debatable. We'll see.
But I think you're right about which studio, right? Most studios might, be shocked and awed by the fact that any director has asked them to include violence, and they probably won't. So there is a problem with violence and the influence that it could have on the audience, right? Because people are impressionable, let's be honest. But we're talking about ourselves, right? We're not the sort of impressionable people where we'll play a game like, for example, Halo, and we're killing aliens, and then we go outside and try to reenact that. No, we won't.
I mean,
we're not talking about that.
No one does that who's a normal-minded human being. It's like the amount of studies that have shown that seeing violence does not make you violent. You have to inherently want to cause harm.
Right.
But why do we like it, though? That's what I'm saying. Why do I enjoy Inglourious Basterds?
Fun! It's just fun.
That's one side of it. It's fun. And the other side is that it's something that you won't actively do, right? So when you see it, you watch it vicariously. And that's wrong, right? So I'll say that it's wrong, and you may agree or disagree. And
I'll fight you.
There's a problem where people could exalt violence. Now that's where it gets tricky, because then once you start exalting violence, you get events like the 6th of January, where the Capitol in the US was raided, and you get terrorist attacks, and you get just real wanton violence, like riots and like pillaging and looting and stuff like that, right? These are common things. These happen all over the world. It's not specific to one geographic area. But media has a huge influence on that. Let's be real about it, because media is great for entertainment, but it's also a way for you to be influenced. Is the best way to put it, right? And
You're a weak-minded bitch.
Well,
that's when you get influenced.
let's be honest, a lot of people are, because they're impressionable. They don't sit down and analyze what they're watching and, think outside of the box and realize that this is not reality that they're experiencing, right? So they're very impressionable. They'll see something and they'll catch on to it. And I'm not saying everybody goes out and reenacts what they see, but it becomes a more normal thing to them. They become desensitized to violence and the effects of violence.
Fair. I mean, I agree 100%. I still like violence. I don't know why. It's funny. And again, Tarantino makes it so much different. Like, I know normal action films and I know Tarantino action scenes, and it's like, there is absolutely no comparison, man. Absolutely no comparison.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
But yeah, Inglourious Basterds is an amazing film. Anyone who's seen it can attest to that. And we did this on our cinema episode. I think it was episode 6, I believe. But where do you guys rank it in his filmography? Give us where was this go? Because for me, it's pretty high up there. I think it's
in the top 3.
Top 3. 100 top 3 for me. Yeah. Same for you guys?
I'd say it's like top something. I don't know if I put it like that high.
Wow. Fair play.
Like, obviously I like it, but it's like, shit. There's a lot of good shit out there, bro.
Like what? Like what?
What do you mean, like what? Name a few good things.
No, he's talking about Tarantino's movies only.
Yeah, I've told you before. I fucking Hateful Eight is above it for me.
Oh, interesting.
Hot take, man. Drops the hot.
It's not a hot take. We've had this discussion. I know your memory's trash, but we've had it on the podcast.
I just don't remember your shit opinions. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
I know your shit opinions also make me sad.
Nah, bro. You can't put Hateful Eight above Inglourious Basterds.
Yes, you can. Just like that.
No, you can't. It's raw.
Yeah, I can.
I mean,
I also put it above Django, just like that.
Okay, I'm done.
I'm done.
Right. So the movie ended with Hans Lanza being branded, right? And in a way, he deserved to have been branded, right? And in a way, it's funny because what it made me think of when I first saw it was the mark of the beast, right? So the mark of the beast, obviously, in biblical terms, is the number 666, and the devil is supposed to be branded by it. And what happens to Hans Landa is that he gets branded by the swastika.
Yeah.
So he literally is the devil.
Yeah, a devil symbol. And it's also very fitting because the film starts and ends that way, and it's almost like, again, he says, you can take off this uniform and you can hide away forever, but me giving this to you, everyone will know for the rest of your life that you're a Nazi. Because let's face it, at the end of the film, he makes a pretty sweet deal and also completely inadvertently ends World War II in that alternate timeline. Because he allows for the plan to kill Hitler and for the cinema to burn down to actually go through in exchange for some very lucrative perks. But obviously at the end, Aldo has the last laugh, and even though we assume as viewers that Landa does get all what he bargained for, he will not be able to enjoy it to its fullest, and that's quite poetic for a character like him. But still, for being the horrible dick and monster that he is, he also ends World War II. So, what Tarantino, man, just go film feet, bro. Go film feet and just spray some more blood on you, bro. Just I'm done, man. I'm done. Rah.
Fair enough. Now, I wanted to add one last thing for our listeners before we wrap up, which is we talked about Hans Landa, who in the movie he has the nickname the Jew Hunter, which he doesn't like. And we talked about the bastards who are Nazi hunters. But I want to talk about a real-life Nazi hunter who was Simon Wiesenthal, who was an actual Nazi hunter. After the war, he hunted down a lot of people who had fled Germany, a lot of people who had fled justice, and he put most of them behind bars. And he was Jewish himself as well, so he had great reason to do this, besides, being a good human being.
For a second, I didn't know where you were going, and I thought you were going to say Christopher Lee, because he was also a Nazi hunter.
Oh my god,
right, yeah, that's right.
Jesus.
But Simon Wiesenthal, not many people talk about or know about, and I wish that wasn't the case, because I think he's a great figure in history. If our listeners are interested, there is a comic book called Simon Says, which is about Simon Wiesenthal. It's obviously an adaptation, but it's a very good read. I enjoyed reading it, and maybe one day we'll talk about Simon Wiesenthal, because I think he deserves a whole episode, not just a 2-minute mention at the end of an episode. I enjoyed this talking about Inglourious Basterds. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us.
Yeah, Encho got his graduation present, and now he can sleep peacefully. eventually.
Yes, Encho, my friends. Enjoy your present.
Yep, Encho, well done again. Thank you so much for being such a dedicated fan.
And, I've known this man since we were toddlers. Encho's a great human being, and I've known him since we were kids, and his support means a lot. If you guys want fellow episodes in anything like that and you want to request stuff, please let us know in the comments or on social media. We will get to them eventually. We've done 2 already, Vampire and this one. And apart from that...
Actually, let us know on Patreon. That's where you can let us know. You can let us know on Patreon. If you let us know on social media, we'll read it. But if you let us know on Patreon, we'll listen to it.
Absolutely. And if you also want to check out my blog, it's still going very strong. Actually, not to toot my own horn, but it's going pretty well. So thank you to anyone who's listening and reading. It's at Ivinyls. It's all in my social media. It's in the description below. Please check it out. Read some music, listen to some vinyls. And yeah, this has been Ivaylo. I hope you enjoyed Inglourious Basterds. If you haven't seen the film, please go and watch it. Why are you even listening to the episode?
Go watch the movie.
Jesus Christ.
If you've made it to this point and you haven't seen it, it's kind of like you've ruined it.
I'm sorry.
Right.
But yeah, this has been Ivaylo. Thank you for everything. Thank you for listening. I'm signing out.
Arrivederci.
See you guys next time.
Peace.